evening. I'm Charlie Tesh. Welcome to Dead Air Live. Tonight we focus on developments in East Somerville, where Stop and Shop is proposing to build a super Stop and Shop on the grounds of the old Somerville lumber site. The Somerville lumber site is now empty because Somerville lumber closed after Home Depot came to the city. In fact, all of the lumber yards in the city, while there was Grossman's before, that's closed too. All of the hardware stores in the city except one have closed since Home Depot came. And people are wondering also what's going to happen now that with the Stop and Shop proposal, what impact that'll have on the East Somerville neighborhood. There's a zoning proposal in front of the Board of Aldermen now that would limit footprint of stores to 50,000 square feet everywhere in the city. And we're going to be talking about that tonight. We're also going to be viewing a tape called Store Wars, which is about a Walmart that tried to go into a town in Virginia, and the people there resisted that. And that's a very interesting tape that we'll look at in a few minutes. Tonight we have four guests, and I'd like to introduce them now. To my left is Lawrence Paolella.
Nice to be here.
Who's a member of the Mystic View Task Force. Walter Matos, who's an East Somerville resident. Jane Sauer, who's also a member of the Mystic View Task Force. And Gina Folia, who's a 16-year resident of the city and runs a landscape design business. So let me open it up with you, Lawrence, and describe the situation a little bit.
Well, the situation with regard to the zoning proposals is quite dynamic. Last night, I guess that would have been June 25th, there was a packed house at City Hall to discuss the proposals. The proposals are being presented and supported by Denise Provo, Alderman White, Taylor, and Roach from Alderman Roach from Ward 1. And just a brief statement about what the intent of these proposals are is to give us a roadmap to get Somerville where it needs to be, starting with now and into the future. We want the kinds of rules and regulations with zoning that will sustain and get us to where we would like to be, and to kind of weed out any kind of development that is going to be an imposition on the community rather than a plus for the community.
All right. I don't know if the tape is ready. Well, maybe it's not. Why don't you talk a little bit about what happened last night then? There were all kinds of anticipations that I heard about of Stop and Shop was going to bus in a bunch of people to plead their case.
Well, in fact, you know, Stop and Shop, as often these larger corporations do, will hire public relations firms to kind of organize the community in their interest. And they went to some of the local labor unions and kind of imposed upon them that it would be a good idea to support a good union store like Stop and Shop. And it turns out, and the hall was full with, I'd say 1/3 of the folks there were not Somervillians. Mm-hmm. They were good union folks who came forward to support what they thought was something worthwhile. Well, before the actual hearing got underway, it became clear that they became unhappy with some of the things they would now, when confronted with some of Stop and Shop's behavior, they just packed up and left. And it was done quickly with a tussling and some harsh language, but it was clear that they felt that they had been asked to misrepresent the situation and that they were stepping into a neighborhood that was already pro-union, and really this was not a union issue. This was a neighborhood issue, and they just packed up and left before the hearing began, which gave quite a positive step forward for the real residents of Somerville to come forward and speak their piece with regard to supporting the zoning amendments.
Good. Well, we'll get to talk more about that in a few minutes. First, we're going to go and take a look at this tape, Store Wars, when Walmart tries to go into Asheville, Virginia. Let's roll that tape.
The Flamingos decided they needed outside help if they were going to convince town council, so they brought in a consultant just for a day.
Glad to meet you.
I'm here.
We heard about Al Norman, who's helping small towns all over America after having a similar battle in his own town. and decided, hey, let's give this a whirl, bring them to town.
You know, Walmart could source these for you. They'll give you an everyday low price. You know, I didn't go to college to be a sprawl buster, and there's no degree in sprawl busting yet. And what motivates me is just the idea of helping small-town America survive. That sense of unique place, of what makes my town different, and what makes my town a beautiful place to live in. All of that is on the line with Walmart. The number of people affected by these stores are in the millions. They're doing this because they feel deeply about the fact that their hometown is worth fighting for. I'd like to talk about strategy, and I'd like to do that in the context that what gets said here does not get repeated outside this room. Is that okay? I mean, I list over 100 communities that have beaten big stores. I don't like the idea of a big corporate giant telling local people what their hometown is going to look like and be like in the future, and what opportunities are going to be available for their kids. They bring an enormous array of resources into a community, and the local citizens are holding bake sales to try to hire a traffic engineer. It's an enormously slanted process that leaves the citizens often with the feeling that it's impossible to make it happen.
WHAN Ashland. A community informational meeting is being held this evening at the Hanover Arts and Activities.
More people are here tonight than ever come to our popular Christmas show, and some of them have to watch it outside.
M1 and
An attorney for Walmart braved the crowd to present the company's position.
the proposed shopping center, we believe, will create a new retail destination and will attract customers from not only the town, but outside the town of Ashland.
Let me just tell you very briefly some of the numbers that I've seen and that I think it's important for the town council to understand. Walmart gains are at the expense of other merchants. 84% of Walmart sales come from other existing businesses.
Walmart founder Sam Walton, in his autobiography, wrote that Walmart will not put a store in a community where it is not wanted. Is this still Walmart's policy?
I think the test of whether or not a store is wanted in a community is gauged by the number of people who shop there once it's open. Let me say this, you know, I respect your right to disagree with anything I say, but I sincerely hope we won't get disagreeable in the process.
Yes, I'd like to address this to Mr. Weinberg. He's made a couple of statements that there would be very or no little impact on their small businesses here in Ashland.
There will be some reduction in business in the short run, but in the long run, or the intermediate term, we believe it will be an enhancement for local businesses because of the unique nature of the local business.
Have you already reviewed the study? Is that why you're saying that?
No, but I've talked preliminarily with the person who's in the midst of making the study.
It seems like you're hearing the conclusions before the study's even out.
No, that's not so at all.
If Mr. Wenberg isn't willing to predict, I will. The study is going to come out and show that Walmart will have a positive net impact on all the revenue sources that you can name.
And I could have guaranteed you tonight would come here and find nothing but evil in Walmart.
How are you? John Jones. Nice to meet you. All these facts and figures you had for the press. Yeah. Got them someplace?
I saw at the debate that people are surprised that Walmart would even want to locate a store in Ashland with another one 10 miles away. But that's part of the Walmart saturation strategy. They place their stores so close together that they become their own competition. And once everybody else is wiped out, then they're free to thin out their stores. Walmart has 390 empty stores on the market today. This is a company that has changed stores as casually as you and I change shoes.
Well, we do have a Walmart store 10 miles away in Richmond. We're not proposing to serve Ashland customers with a Richmond store. Richmond is a very successful store, and it's there for members of the Richmond community. The best way to get people to really base their conclusions on factual information is to get them to look at other communities where there is a Walmart store and find out for themselves what the effects have really been.
Listen to what people here are saying.
Walmart definitely brings more people to your community. A lot of those people who come don't necessarily shop at Walmart once they get here. They shop at other places as well. I want every business. I think there's room for everyone in some fashion.
The other retailers in the area, the smaller retailers, have had to become niche players. And they've adopted very well, as a matter of fact, in most cases. There have been some, quite frankly, who are not around. But Walmart, I would say, has been a good corporate citizen of our area.
As you can see, Walmart reaches out to its neighbors and makes its community stronger. It's a reputation we're proud of and hope to renew in Ashland.
When Walmart gave Town Council a video they produced just for them, Mayor Herbert and Councilmember Stuart Reed decided to go to Tappahannock and do their own reality check.
But who are the other individuals that you have that we're going to be meeting with?
I had talked with the Tribble brothers in Tappahannock, who own a building supply firm.
Well, I think we need to talk to everyone.
That's right.
Nice to meet you guys. How you doing? Great. Pleasure to meet you. Great. Y'all want to? Where y'all want to go to talk about the Walmart thing? Well, we can go upstairs to the office. It's a little quieter up there and have a little more privacy. I'll lead the way. Since Walmart came to our area, there have been approximately 28 to 30 businesses that have closed. The talk about drawing people to Tappahannock, they draw people to the Walmart parking lot. They park their car, they go in the store, they buy everything in Walmart that they used to buy from these 5 or 6 places here in town that have gone out or more. They walk back out, they get in their car, and they leave. Okay. Tappahannock doesn't see a red cent of their money. Walmart does.
My kids, if you ask them where are you going to buy something in Tappahannock, the first thing they're going to say is Walmart, because they don't know anywhere else to go.
If you put it on a scale and you put in one side of the scale, you balance the total revenue that's brought in your community in the form of tax dollars by Walmart. I mean, that's a lot of money. If you take out of the other side what you've lost in total revenue in tax dollars from the 28 to 30 businesses collectively, when you take out the jobs that are lost by family members and employees of those 28 to 30 businesses, if you take out the support for the community, volunteerism, fire and rescue, heart fund, charity work, if you take all of that, then it becomes very one-sided. And I think the loss is to the community.
Well, you know what I was... Boy, that is a dead shopping center. That's 2 dead and 1 live.
Walmart was sort of the last straw. You weren't competing with people your own size anymore. You were competing against huge conglomerates. As you lose people like me, you lose the service too. If you came into my store and wanted a pair of boots, I could pull them off the shelf and tell you what was in them and figure out which boot was best for you and fit you. When you go to a Walmart, the guy will tell you it's on aisle B3 and he thinks it's in a box. My store was kind of almost like a community gathering place. You would have people that came in every day. They bought from you, but they also came in to check on the news and see this, that, and the other. We had customers who their great-grandfathers had been in business, had been doing business with us when we first went in business and were taking care of their kids now. And so you knew them, you had some history with them. It was what it was.
All right, welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion with some of the topics that they just brought up in that tape. I think the effects of a big development like a super Stop and Shop on the business community in East Somerville. And let me just go to you, Jane, and tell us what you think.
I've lived in Somerville since 1974, and one of the reasons I like living here is there are many small businesses and stores that I frequent, but one of the interesting things is somebody that my brother teaches with down in Connecticut, her parents, it turns out, were born and raised in Somerville and met each other in Somerville. However, they did move out of town to Lexington. However, whenever they want to shop for something interesting, like bakery goods or some other things, or go to an interesting little restaurant, they always go back to Somerville. And I think that this is what makes Somerville unique and special to people in Somerville and also to people from out of town. And this kind of thing is going to be lost. I mean, just like we saw in the tape.
And my feeling is that it's the tape specifically deals with Walmart, but I think that it's really the size and scale of the store, whether it be a Home Depot, an IKEA, a big Target, an oversized Kmart. It's that concept that really is at odds with the fabric of Somerville community, and what makes Somerville so wonderful and valuable to those of us who live here.
Right, it's a mega store. You know, and one of the reasons that I like Somerville is the squares. I mean, that's really important to me. People know me, people know my dogs, you know, people, you can go and shop somewhere, and if you don't have enough change, they'll say, oh, come back later. You know, that's a small town atmosphere in a larger city, and I think that's invaluable. I think it's wonderful.
I've heard people say that they actually look forward to the idea of a Stop and Shop being put in there because they want some sort of a local grocery store that some of the other stores around aren't enough, I guess. And maybe it's too far to get down to the Star Market in Winter Hill. How much of a factor do you think that is?
Well, I think that a lot of people do like to have things that are a little easier. If you are a parent with children, it's hard to put them in the car, take them somewhere, take them out of the car. If you have something that's a neighborhood, it's so much easier. If you're a senior citizen, it's so much easier to get to someplace local. I know that the senior citizens do get bused outside of Somerville to go do some of their grocery shopping, and that's unfortunate. If they had someplace that they could go to that's local, that was of a decent size, but not an overwhelming size. I know that for some people, when you have something so large, it becomes overwhelming for them. It doesn't become an amenity anymore. I also think that there are some stores, well, they deliver, like the Johnny's Food Master in my neighborhood. You know, they do deliver. But it's nice to have different smaller stores throughout the city than one larger store, because that fosters the walking, it fosters the community, it fosters the neighborhood atmosphere of things.
Basically, neighborhood's always changing. I'm from East Somerville, and I've been there for a while. Of course, I lived in Somerville all my life, just about. And I'm old enough to know when every neighborhood had their own stores and variety of stores, and then when places like Stop and Shop and even go back to First National or the A&P, when they opened up and when people made instead of making a daily shopping, they did a weekly shopping, but they weren't as big as what Stop and Shop was. And I think what people in East Somerville, either you're for this thing or you're not, but if you are for it, they feel that they should have a store in their neighborhood. It's unfortunate that if you live in East Somerville, we're really boxed in by highways, 93 McGrath Highway, and we're just boxed in there. And basically everything seems to work in either side of that highway in East Somerville, and there's not much on the other end of left of East Somerville. It goes up to Walnut Street, but everything from McGrath back, they're locked in. I think with the zoning thing, and in a sense, I think we could, if a store does go there, and if we can limit its size, everybody would be happy that they have this store. And a lot of other things, in fact, there is change. And I want to say something about lower end of Broadway. At one time, we had all vacant storefronts down there. It's when the new people came into the neighborhood, which we always welcome new people in the neighborhood. They were very courageous. They opened up small businesses. I mean, small businesses, and with a language situation, and they're doing well there. And when when a group of public relations people come in and talk to seniors, they said that those people welcome the Stop and Shop. I didn't see any one of my merchants at that meeting that night.
I think we do, sometimes we do some things backwards. When you put in a mega store in some area, and then you have a traffic problem, and then you look to the mega store to mitigate some of the traffic issues, and you create larger roadways. Well, that does just what you're saying happen in East Somerville, where you are creating barriers then for people to get into your neighborhood, because you now have 3 lanes to cross, and then a median strip, and then another 3 lanes to cross. And that's not easy, even with one of those timed lights to let pedestrians cross. That's not very easy, and it creates, just like 93 creates an edge, or the Mystic River creates an edge. The McGrath Highway there creates an edge that becomes insurmountable sometimes for people.
Yeah, about 6 years ago, Stop and Shop tried to put a super Stop and Shop in Cambridgeport on Memorial Drive, and people dealt with a lot of the same issues of traffic through their neighborhoods and that kind of stuff. One of the people who spoke at the seminar that you put on last Saturday night was involved in the process in Cambridge, and we have some tape of what he said, so we're going to take a look at that now.
I'm Phil Dowds. I've lived in Cambridge most of my life. In fact, I was entertained to read tonight in your handout about my city. Our neighbors outside of Somerville understand this. Robert Healy, Cambridge city manager, told the Boston Globe, "Cambridge has always said no to box stores." Well, that's not what I remember. The year is 1994. Stop and Shop is busy pushing its superstore concept and bailing out of its various antique neighborhood facilities. One of the ones they wanted to bail out, or at least transform, was an old facility on Memorial Drive, which I'm sure many of you remember. It was right on Mem Drive between Harvard and MIT, central location in Cambridge. That site, owned by Stop and Shop, actually had 3 buildings on it. The old Stop and Shop store and a couple of other retail buildings, which altogether totaled about 50,000 square feet of retail. Stop and Shop wanted to bulldoze the whole thing flat, start over again with a new superstore that was roughly 75,000 square feet, although we could never actually nail down the number for sure. So what they were proposing to do was not necessarily either out of character or huge relative to what was there. However, the intensity of use and the amount of traffic and so on and so forth was plainly going to change dramatically. As soon as this project proposal hit the streets, there was instant agitation in Cambridge. A tremendous number of people emerged to be both against and for this project. Those who were against were very concerned about more traffic, trucks, parking spillover from what they saw as an inadequate parking lot. Some immediate butters were very concerned about loss of view, southerly exposure across the Charles River, rooftop equipment noise, the possibility of maybe 24-hour operation. Those were the kinds of concerns of the folks against. The people who were for this were people who liked the superstore idea in general. They thought it would provide some convenience and opportunity for them. They were looking forward to improvements to a commercial property which was not particularly attractive, well laid out or well managed. And there was also a fair segment of the community in southern Cambridgeport consisting of carless people, old folks, low-income folks, and so on, who walked to the Stop and Shop, and like the little old lady who couldn't imagine where she could get a hearing aid other than Walmart, many of these people were having a tough time figuring out how they might get food if Stop and Shop were not on that location anymore. I think the neighborhood, and I'm using it in a fairly large sense, the neighborhood was really split pretty much down the middle, 50-50, for and against. And things got ugly
rumors of counselors making secret deals with Stop and Shop, of butters making their own secret deals, the usual stuff about, I live closer than you do, this is my neighborhood, you're not part of my neighborhood, my opinion counts and yours doesn't. I thought the folks in Ashland were wondrously civil compared to the kind of hand-to-hand combat that we do in Cambridge. My group at that time was the Cambridge Civic Association. I was the president at that moment. And our take on it and our concerns were perhaps just a little different from everybody else's. One concern was that of trucks on Memorial Drive. Memorial Drive, as you all know, is a parkway. It is not supposed to carry huge trucks. In fact, it's not designed to do so. But the Stop and Shop design was so crowded on this tiny lot, the store is so huge, the parking's so huge, that the only way it would work was to bring trucks in from the neighborhood side and send them out onto Memorial Drive for their egress. There was literally, quite literally, no room in their design to turn a truck around on their property. So out on Memorial Drive, the trucks were supposed to go. In fact, one of the tests we did showed clearly that trucks exiting the way they proposed would not only cross virtually all 4 lanes trying to complete their turns. The other issue that concerned us in the CCA was disposition of the public way, and you say, what public way? Well, what may look to you who know the site like all one lot, in fact, has a road, a city road in the middle of it called Riverside Road, which goes right through the then and the current parking lot. Stop and Shop's plan could not proceed without gaining control of this public way. And many of us thought the city was about to sell it or give it away far too cheaply. In fact, we didn't think it should be sold at all. So the CCA position on this was superstore, maybe yes, maybe no, 60,000 square feet, 80,000 square feet. We weren't into any of that. But we were very clear that first, no trucks on the drive. Whatever you do, solve your problem without sending trucking onto the parkway system. And 2, City of Cambridge, please don't sell Riverside Road. Give them a ground lease for 20 to 40 years, whatever it takes, but retain control of that road, which is how you will control the site for the benefit of the community indefinitely into the future. For taking this position, we at the CCA were roundly castigated as elitists who were indifferent to the needs of the poor and willing to condemn old ladies to starve. Now, where was government in all this? Really, there were two special acts of government that needed to happen to make this possible. First, the MDC had to permit trucks to go on the road, and there were people in this battle who were a lot closer to the MDC activity than I was. But my sense for it was that the MDC was about as internally divided on this issue as the city of Cambridge itself was. But the MDC was, in fact, its commissioners were headed toward granting the exception that would permit trucks to use a short segment of the parkway system briefly to solve the over-design problem created by Stop and Shop. City of Cambridge, the zoning was fine. In fact, it had been a retail use for a long time. There were no particular special permits or no really important special permits or variances that were required. But the City of Cambridge, of course, had to dispose of Riverside Road. And Stop and Shop was taking the position, unless we can buy it, unless you sell it to us, we won't do this project. Since the neighborhood was split 50-50, this is exactly what city councilors hate. Their constituencies were split down the middle, so the councilors tended to make themselves very scarce, or if they did show up at anything, they'd come to a meeting and wring their hands and show great concern and say that we needed more meetings, hoping that somebody would solve this for them. We also in Cambridge have a $3 million a year community development department, which was somehow unable to put forward any meaningful critiques or useful information about this plan. Eventually, the city did attempt to sell Riverside Road to Stop and Shop, but they bungled it, and we'll come back to that in just a second. After more than a half year of Sturm und Drang in Cambridge over this topic, Stop and Shop folded its hands and walked away. Why? What they said was that, in fact, they didn't want to be party any longer to such a controversial project. But I have a different opinion. I think the reason was litigation. Cambridge residents are well known for being able to raise serious money to do serious court challenges, and the there were many of us who were convinced that first, the MDC did not have the statutory authority it took to grant an exception in this instance. And there were also many of us who were concerned that the way the council tried to dispose of Riverside Road violated both its own municipal ordinances and also public meeting law. And there were people who were prepared to litigate on exactly that basis. Either Stop and Shop decided that they were going to lose the case, or they decided that it was going to take so long and be so acrimonious that it really, discretion was the better part of valor, and they would go on to other sites, which they did. So what you see there now is the result of all that. Instead of a superstore, there's the old Stop and Shop renovated as a computer store. One of the other old buildings has turned into Trader Joe's, which is much beloved by the neighborhood and may solve some pedestrian problems for buying food. That was the outcome.
All right, welcome back. So he's just touched on the subject of pedestrian access and some of the other things we've been talking about. Let's continue with the subject of traffic and what the impact of this store would be in East Somerville.
Well, now that I'm retired, I know what traffic is all day. Before, I used to only know evening traffic. Like I said, Somerville has been boxed off with some large roads, and so it became a piece of pie, and or came a pie. And what now, the traffic is now cutting through our neighborhoods, so now it's pieces of pie. Some streets where it had normal traffic, now it's increased. Trucking is increased. Everybody in the industrial park uses Pearl Street to get out of Somerville or get to West Somerville. You have a transfer station for trash. All those trucks use Pearl Street because they get off onto Washington Street just at Joy Street, which Tough Street is where they go. They go down and get across and down Tufts and just go across Washington Street, so they don't have to hit it much. Traffic is increasing. It's been increasing for a long time, especially in my neighborhood, which I observe. And we don't have the big box here. We don't have Assembly Square. We don't have Stop and Shop. These are things that will bring more traffic. You know, when they show you traffic that this is McGrath Highway. I saw a slide where there was only 2 cars. I could sit out there. I could sit out there for 40 years and I could never see 2 cars. You know, it's amazing. I don't know. You know, I'm a high school graduate, a couple of years of college. You know, I don't consider myself the smartest guy, but they don't consider people having any intelligence.
Yeah. Is there any estimate of how much the traffic would increase with this super Stop and Shop in there?
Well, I don't think a comprehensive traffic study has been done yet, and certainly a good planning would strongly suggest that the comprehensive study be done before the project is approved. That only makes
sense. The numbers would be.
I do know that in 1989, the major intersection of O'Brien, Mystic Ave, and Route 93 was described as at its capacity in 1989, and they said that if and it was mostly just talking about new development at Assembly Square, that in fact, if about 18% retail was added to what was already at Assembly Square, it would raise that capacity, it would raise that overload to 180% of the capacity of that intersection. Now what's being proposed with the second Home Depot, a proposed IKEA store at Assembly Square, a super Stop and Shop, a revitalization of the old Home Depot into a Home Expo. I mean, I think we're going to create a gridlock situation there without dealing with, forget about mitigation. We're talking about major ramps off the highway to prevent people from driving through our neighborhoods.
It's not just
well,
there.
the thing, I believe this. I believe that they would not. Normally, you would go to a traffic plan before you start development in an area. Those figures are going to be so frightening. If they put those figures out a year ago, 2 years ago, even if they put them out tonight, there would be a different situation and how people would think about big box in traffic. Yeah. Because they They have money aside. Everybody says we have a traffic plan. Nobody tells us anything. They say we have signatures, but I'm not going to give them to you. This is the type of stuff. You know, we're taxpayers, and we subsidize all big business. And believe me, I don't come close. My savings account, I think, is a little shy, and then Stop and Shop.
All right. Well, we'll talk about tax revenues and the effect on jobs in a minute. Before that, we've got another tape from last Saturday when Al Norman from Sprawl Busters came and talked about some of the work he's been doing helping communities resist this kind of thing. So let's take a look at that tape now.
Well, I believe in fighting aprons with aprons, so I brought along my, Home Depot has their apron, it's orange. Mine is green, it says hometown's not Home Depot. I like to wear this just as a reminder that when Home Depot and IKEA talk to you about jobs, they're really just new jobs and old aprons. Because every time I drive down 93, and I see the big sign that says Somerville Lumber, it just reminds me of what we got when we got Home Depot. We got the end of Somerville Lumber, we've got Grossman's that folded, and my own brother-in-law had the great misfortune of going to work for Grossman's, losing his job to Home Depot. Then the poor guy went to Somerville Lumber and lost his job there. He knows what big box retailing does to a local community. He's learned it twice the hard way. Why don't we understand it? As long as that big sign, Somerville Lumber, is up there, it should be a clear reminder to all of us that we're basically talking about a zero-sum game here. The numbers don't add up. Maybe the mayor can produce some figures that show otherwise, but I'll demonstrate to you that all across this country, people are finally understanding that big box retailing does not mean an economic shot in the arm to local communities like Somerville. It's a shot in the head. And so allowing them to keep moving their assets around, oh, we'll shut this one down and put in an Expo there, and we'll move Home Depot across the street, and we'll put in an IKEA, none of this results in any significant economic development. It just results in wasted land. And somebody please explain to me, what is the connection between waterfront property and people who sell hammers? Is there some reason why we want to take our waterfront and put a furniture seller, excuse me, manufacturing might even have made sense in the 19th century, but a furniture maker, someone who sells hammers, and someone who sells bananas, and put them near the waterfront? I want to be able to access the waterfront. We don't have that many riverfront properties available in this state. Why are we talking about all this River Protection Act stuff if we're going to load up our riverways with big box retailers? The citizens of Somerville should have access to that river. That river can be used for recreational purposes, it can be used for tourist purposes, it can be used for all kinds of things, but it doesn't have to be used for people who sell sheetrock. And I don't think Home Depot has any business being anywhere near the waterfront, the river. I also wanted to just say that I met with people from the task force earlier today, and in my mind crystallized where we are at this point with this long-standing battle with these various projects, IKEA and Taurus and so forth. Next Monday night is probably the beginning, should be the official beginning of the campaign called Cap the Box. And I'm wearing a bunch of hats tonight. Now, doesn't it look stupid to have some guy sitting out in the audience when the aldermen have their meeting? What if everybody in the audience is wearing 2 or 3 hats, like this? And when they stand up to speak, they say, I'm wearing several caps tonight. And first of all, my cap is off to the 3 aldermen who filed this proposal for a cap on the side of the building. Alderman White, Provost, and Roach, you have my admiration, because that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be capping the size of buildings as a way of saying that in Somerville, size matters. The issue for Somerville is not how big you grow, but how you grow big. There's a slight difference, but it's very important. It's not how big you grow, because you will grow. It's how you grow big, how you do it. When I'm asked, is there an appropriate place for a 350,000 square foot store, my answer is very simple: no. There is no place where that's reasonable. I don't care if it's in Paramus, New Jersey, or Somerville. There is no reasonable place for a store that's 5 or 6 times the size of a football field. So my answer is that we have to cap the store. We have to enact ordinances which many communities are now doing, saying that there is a limit to how much we're willing to put up with from these developers. There's a New England developer who calls himself Infinity Properties, and he builds Walmarts. And he believes that land is infinite. He's wrong. He's dead wrong, but he still believes that it will line his pocketbook to have the attitude that we have an infinite amount of land. So the issue in Somerville is not anti-development. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear people say, well, they're anti-development. No, they're not. They're pro-community development. They want to create jobs that, first of all, pay worth having, and they want to create jobs that last a while in the community. And they want to pay for jobs that stick around for corporations that aren't moving every few months. Walmart, as you saw in the film, has close to 400 dead stores now because they keep moving their stores around to different and bigger locations. So I think the issue is how to come up with a reasonable compromise to control uncontrolled development. And that's why the cap idea is very reasonable. 50,000 square feet. That's bigger than a football field. Any developer who tells you I can't build them that small simply doesn't understand that Walmart today is building them that small. They have 40,000 square foot stores, and so does Home Depot. 40,000 square foot villager hardware stores, they're called. Not exactly Mr. Rogers' neighborhood size. 40,000 square feet is still a very big store. Why can't they do it in Somerville? Of course they can do it, but they won't do it until you tell them that's what we insist on here, that you will be appropriately scaled, that this is not a suburb, this is an urban area, and that we won't be treated like we're on the New Jersey Turnpike. Because there's only two things wrong with this IKEA project and the Torres project. Only two things. Wrong size, wrong place. After that, it's fine. But when you think about it, those two things are the most important, serious reasons why these kinds of projects should be denied. So what do you want to say on Monday? I want you to all do your best to show up on Monday with your hats, with at least 3 hats, and to show up at 6:30 at Somerville City Hall, and to start to send the message that we want you to think outside of the box. We want you to cap the size. We want you to cap the box. And that campaign needs to go on until 8 people on the Board of Aldermen are ready to vote for the cap. It has to be an inevitable conclusion that this is a good compromise. On the one hand, it allows stores to come in at a fairly large size, and on the other hand, it prevents the gastronomical, horrendous size that companies like IKEA are proposing, and actually are totally inappropriate. So when something is too big, we say we want you to cap the size of the buildings. We want you to do what Kansas City did. I'm just going to tick these off, but I've got more information on all of them. Kansas City just passed an ordinance that limits the size of the first floor to 10,000 square feet. This is an urban area. South San Francisco did Home Depot in by doing the same thing. The president of the San Francisco Board of Aldermen voted for a cap on the size of buildings. This is not some little small town. Close to us, we have Stratham, New Hampshire, enacted a cap recently. Milford, Pennsylvania, enacted a cap. Belfast, Maine, a week ago, voted 2-1 in a public referendum to put a cap of 75,000 square feet on the size of buildings. 2-1. We've got Westford, New Hampshire. Buckingham, Pennsylvania even went further. Buckingham, Pennsylvania said to the developers now, if you put a big box building in our store, in our town, and it sits vacant for a year, you tear it down and restore it to green space at your expense. And we're going to ask you to put up money as a guarantee that that's the case. In other words, communities are fed up with developers controlling their future and running their communities. That's why Monday night is so important. That's why you have to show up in large numbers. I want you to please invite your friends, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. Get them there with caps on so that when the aldermen look out, they don't have to ask you, do you support a cap? You've already said it to them. You've already shown them symbolically that IKEA is a terrible idea, that stores of that size are historic mistakes. They're non-conforming uses. They don't make any sense anymore, that we're not going to put up with them anymore. And remember to tell them that Home Depot is not a government mandate. And when you win your cap, I want you to invite me back to celebrate the victory. All right. And we'll all be there
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome back to the live studio part of our program. Let's go back to where we were a little bit, talk about some of the job situation where the Stop and Shop says the jobs will be created by this store, and what impact will it really have in the community?
Well, if you go to any store, there's always going to be a small minority that they work full-time in these stores. Most of the majority of the employees are part-time. Stop and Shop basically is a union shop. I worked for them, and I paid dues and I paid initiation fee. I did not make the wage of a full-time employee. You know, these are some of the things that what I call not good jobs, even though a job is a job. But to me, you need jobs that you can go from an entry job to a good paying job as quick as you possibly can. But when you take a store, there probably maybe 10% are full-time and the rest are not. That time interval will take a long time. And I think when I say time interval, it'll probably take like 15 years before you tag in with a good job.
It's not only that. I think that when you do have part-time employees and there are certain lack of benefits that are available to them, when you are thinking about young people starting out in jobs, we heard this on Monday night, that, you know, what's wrong with a young person, you know, working at a large grocery store. I think it's different, you know, when you have a young person coming into much more of a community store. There's a mentorship, there's a knowledge of who's there and where you can possibly go. And even if you don't stay at that store, you're learning some skills, and there are people in the community that can help you along. They recognize your face, they see you when you're out on the street. So it's that quality of place that happens along with the opportunities. But you know, that's for jobs. You can then talk about the tax dollars and where things go from there, or also, you know, when people come and shop at the store, when it's a community store, the money stays in Somerville a lot, or in your community.
I think that's real important, that dollars spent in Somerville at local businesses gets recycled 3-4 times into that community with direct payroll to those folks. The folks who own the stores often live in our community, and they also shop in our community. They use the local banks in our community. And this, to me, sustains the fabric of Somerville as I know it and as I wanted to go forward, and not to be turned into what I consider an attempt to suburbanize Somerville, where you don't know your neighbor as comfortably, and you have to take your car to go everywhere, and that the kind of development is out of proportion with what I consider the fabric of Somerville is. And then, you know, to talk about the limit on the tax revenue based upon these 1- or 2-story buildings, it just doesn't cut it. I mean, unless we're talking about shrinking the footprint of the building, going up with taller structures, particularly at the Assembly Square site, or even at the Stop and Shop site, I probably could tolerate taller buildings. This morning, I was at a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce where IKEA rolled out their third or fourth version of their development, and it was clear that the little bit of mixed use that they tacked on to this mega store was producing 3 times the amount of taxes just with that little bit of space. So because of the intensity and the density of that development. So that's a clear concern of ours.
Well, Stop and Shop is apparently starting a campaign to convince the people of Somerville that this development is really in our best interests. And so we've got a tape of a couple of our aldermen talking about what's going on there. Let's take a look at that tape, and then we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Just to let people know, the Stop and Shop company has hired a public relations firm. So they're going all out, and I would anticipate Monday night that this public relations firm is going to bring an awful lot of people there to speak on behalf of super Stop and Shop and opposing the zoning amendments. For instance, there's a couple of senior centers, so they will bust the seniors to say things similar to the woman in the Walmart movie that we saw.
Is it Reagan Communications by any chance?
You know, I don't know the name of them. All I can see is somebody's handiwork, because we've been getting scores of letters that happen to have the envelopes all addressed by the same person, and form letters that seem to be written by somebody who will be working for a PR firm. So I mean, that's what I anticipate, and I think it is very important, because a lot of the aldermen have not committed on this, and if they see large crowds of people actually supporting the super Stop and Shop, especially people from that neighborhood, and they don't see a strong group of people opposed to it and giving sound reasons, you know, in support of the 50,000 square foot cap, then I think it is going to be a very, very difficult battle come the fall. So, I mean, if you have a telephone tree or whatever, just to call people up to get them out at this meeting, I think is going to be very important.
Can I just show you how much mail I got today from this public relations firm that is getting people to sign letters for Stop and Shop? Including 2 letters from labor unions, many pages of petitions and letters, form letters forwarded by the planning board. That's just today. It's been coming in like this since the beginning of May. That's what we're up against.
I hope that you'll point out that Somerville is not for sale to the corporation that can hire the most PR firms, but that what you're really looking for is what are the residents of Somerville saying. And that's why I think that it's important that you all know that you're dealing with a corporation that will hire a PR firm. Eventually, at some point, they will do a survey, a quote-unquote survey, a push-pull survey of voters in which they ask you whether you support or don't support the cap. Keep in mind and tell people that in Belfast, Maine, just about a week and a half ago, the voters voted 2-1 in favor of a cap. They did not have, Walmart did not try to organize the area with a PR campaign. But in other places where I've been at, these companies, I saw Walmart and Home Depot spend $250,000 just on one of these campaigns. So you're in a battle whether you like it or not.
All right, so we've just got about 3 minutes to finish up. Let me ask you, Jane, what should people be doing at this point?
Well, they should be contacting their aldermen to let them know what their opinions are on the 50,000 square foot cap and the other zoning measures in Assembly Square, in the East Somerville area. On the Mystic View Task Force website, we have information on this on a special page. One of our members went to City Hall. It took her quite a bit of time to dig this information up. It wasn't readily available at City Hall. She typed up the information from some documents there, and it's on the website with some explanatory information there and some maps. And also on our website, we have aldermen's addresses and telephone numbers, and then also, which we'll get up there tomorrow, addresses to send in to the Board of Aldermen and the Planning Board for sending in testimony, which is important to do for people. People testified in person last night at the June 25th, but it's important to send in letters of supporting people's views.
Up until
July
13th.
July 13th.
Right, a written testimony on that.
Right.
And people have to remember that the 50,000 square foot cap applies to all of Somerville. It's not just East Somerville. So these amendments affect all of Somerville.
And I'd like to point out that this is a compromise. The idea of capping the development to a 50,000 square foot footprint is a big compromise, and it's about the maximum that Somerville should be tolerating.
And people should be aware of the tax revenue that you can get through some smaller mixed-use development than you can through a big box development. Big box often gives a single benefit package to the city, but there's nothing there to really sustain it after that, whereas some other kind of development can put in the finances to do the sustaining that the city really needs.
All right, we have probably time for one more comment. We should mention, I guess, the website address. www.theville.com, THE-VILLE. Anything else?
/ Mystic View.
/ Mystic
Yeah.
View. All right.
And it's time for the folks of Somerville to step forward and take control of the roadmap that's going to get us to the vision that we all appreciate. And the zoning map will do that. So I think it's important that we support our alderman's amendments to introduce this cap and to get the desired results that we would really love and appreciate.
Very good. Well, it's time to say goodnight. I want to thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. Tune in next week for another show. Good night.
In hearing all of our speakers tonight, they certainly bring home firsthand stories of successes of challenges that we face here in Somerville and have been for 3 years. And this is not a moment to get tired. It is not a moment to give up the fight. Maybe at the risk of my American heritage, or shall I say Native American heritage history, there's a loosely interpreted Indian proverb from the Iroquois Indian tribe, and it speaks something to the nature of be sure that every action you take positively affects the next 7 generations. And, you know, in addition to the stories we heard tonight and the folks in this audience who've worked very hard, and still an administration that resists this, developers that have more clout and capital than this group does. Again, it's not a time to give up. I wanted to just leave with 2 last punctuations before we open this up to questions. And that is, in addition to the work that has taken place over the last 3 years, at least a half a dozen schools, universities, architecture departments, planning departments have taken this site into their studios, into their labs, into their think tanks, looked at this thing any one of 100 ways, and of all the scenarios that have come out and been proposed before the city and before members of the Mystic View group, not one of them said the ideal use of this site is to pave it and put 2 giant big boxes. My father-in-law and mother-in-law visiting from Pennsylvania today, I took Joe today and my 1.5-year-old son, Ware, to watch the orange trains go choo-choo-choo across the Mystic River. We looked at the sailboats. We watched the locks. We picked flowers. And, you know, in a way, it's like a junkyard. So it's a clean canvas. Although there are landowners and a plan, we are at a moment in time, as are our elected officials, and I commend 3 who've been steadfast, with the exception of one, Mr. Roach, and I commend him for sort of turning around. But this is a moment in time, not just for the next retail success or the next administration's tout of success, but it is at a moment in time for the site for possibly the next 7 generations. So it's either do it right or do it wrong and live with that legacy. I like to believe this group that's here tonight is on the side of doing something right and meaningful.